can such disingenuousness harm the movement? So you have, for example, in the United States, when they had the Black Lives Matters protests, you all of a sudden had these groups that, Trump had called Antifa, and that these guys were, breaking into to shops and so on, and then it getting blamed on the African American and blaming it on the movement. Basically, if there was no protest, this wouldn't have happened, and so on. So this kind of the idea of activism in terms of it being disingenuous can harm the movement. You have the same thing with the environmental movement. If certain political parties push for climate action and so on, but then when they get into government, they actually don't deliver on climate justice, and then that harms the environmental movement in terms of climate action. You've got then, in terms of the LGBT community, when we had our referendum for marriage equality, yes, all companies jumped on the LGBT movement bandwagon and had all the pride stickers on their windows and so on. But in that sense, that may have been disingenuous, because you might question if there are anyone from the LGBT community on their boards and so on. But we accomplished the referendum and we got equality, and it may have created an awareness. So I think there's a fine line between all that, and you kind of have to balance it out. And I think being able to identify it is really, really important. I do like the idea that, we have to move away from pure identity politics, that, because that's where, for example, environmentalists, they can be criticized for not doing enough when it comes to social justice matters, and that climate action is about climate justice and not impacting the most vulnerable in our society with your heavy carbon tax and so on and so forth. So I think it's important to be able to identify that.